All right, everybody, welcome to Unscripted One-on-One. And today I'm very honored to have a very special guest with us from Hilliard Schools. We have Stacie Raterman with us today. She is the Director of Communications, I believe it is.
Yep.
And hopefully I'm getting that title right. But Stacie and I met because we're both on the Hilliard Chamber Board. And so we've just had a chance to get to know each other and where we are right now in the world with schools and everything else. I thought it might be a good chance to have someone from the school district on with me. So very, very thankful and that she's gracious enough to give us our time today. So Stacie, do you want to introduce yourself in case I missed any gaps there? Introduce yourself to the audience.
I think you got it perfectly. And I want to apologize. I know you asked for the superintendent. So he sends his apologies. It is a crazy, crazy time and going 100,000 miles a minute. So I'm glad I was able to be here, but he does send his apologies. I'm sure he'd love to do this at some time down the road.
And I knew when I asked the question that it was probably going to be no, but like I said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So I figured I'd give it a shot, but respect Dr. Marshausen so much. And that was one of the things I wanted to say right up front is I'm glad I don't have either one of your jobs. I'm sure it's a wonderful job. I'm just glad it's not mine. So speaking of jobs, can we start there? I am so fascinated by your early career because I know when we moved to Columbus, I believe you were on the radio. Is that right? So can you explain what station you were on and really what led you to radio?
Yeah, so it started, I went to Ohio University and I was in the journalism program there. And basically radio was my first career. I mean, I spent, 20 years in radio. I started small markets, made it to Columbus. At one point I worked for WNCI as the traffic person, flying in a helicopter. Wow. moved around different places, and ended up, for the end of my radio portion of the career, I was with Clear Channel. It's iHeartRadio now. And, I was a reporter for the news station WTVN, but then I ended with being part of the WCOL morning show with Woody and Zuko and the Wake Up Call. And now the woman that's there now, Kayla, is actually a Hilliard graduate too. Right. So, we've got this Hilliard connection going with that radio station. But, that was my whole career. And, we had kids. My husband was also in radio, and we have kids, and we were starting to do, appearances at 10 o'clock at night, and weekends were eaten up with that. And as our kids started playing sports and being involved in activities, it just became something that was just, more and more difficult to do. And, I will say that radio was my dream job and I loved every minute of it. It was the best thing in the world. I love what I'm doing now. It's totally different. Yeah. I joke that, the first 20 years of my life, I was paid to say whatever I wanted. And now I'm paid to talk to people and make sure everyone's happy.
Right. Absolutely. Well, you do a fantastic job with both. I do remember you on the radio, and I've always had a dream of being on radio at some point. They say I have a face for radio. So
well, I'll take that too.
So no, I always thought it was a fascinating career, but I could see how you would want to make that pivot. With family, I can't imagine the hours.
And the thing with radio, when I started, I was a journalism major, so I loved doing the news part. The news was wonderful, and then being a part of Woody and Zuko and those guys, it was so much fun every day. It was something different every day, and I always thought, I'm not going to be able to go into a job where I sit at a desk from 9 to 5 and answer to one person or 5 people or whatever it is, and and just sit there and do it. And fortunately, this career change, which I will be honest with you, when I first started it, I thought it was going to be a 1 to 2 year kind of gig. And, it would help me transition maybe into corporate PR or something like that. I've fallen in love with it. I've fallen in love. My kids are in the district, and I've fallen in love, again, I get paid to say this, but fallen in love with the district. And I'm really proud of the work we do here and can't imagine being anywhere else, and going into my 8th school year now. So I've been here almost as long as I was on WCOL.
Wow. Yeah. And I've met Woody once, and I think I met Kayla once, and both times they were both great. Just wonderful, wonderful people. So I can imagine that was a great ride. But so as we transition, and you made a great, again, this is unscripted for you and for everybody else watching it. Literally, there's no script here. There's no template that we're going off of. So
just like radio, telling you,
it's,
no
yeah,
idea what's going to happen 1 minute to the next in radio.
absolutely. We're just ripping and running right now. So we'll see what happens. But no, as we transition to, I think really the thing that most people will be most, not that your career wasn't interesting, because I think it's great. I could talk about it all day, but obviously getting into the school thing, I did want to kind of set up we're in such a toxic, crazy, wild time that none of us have a clue what we're doing, I think, at the most part. We're really building the bike as we're riding it downhill. And so I think for that, in this next conversation with schools, I wanted to give kind of a, I guess, safe word might not be the right thing, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to say, because I don't know what's inbounds and what's not. And you've been very gracious in saying that Hilliard Schools is very much an open book, and I appreciate that. So let me first say, like you said, you're paid to say it. I'm not, but in a way I might be, because my wife is a teacher within the district. That being said, I'm not paid. My wife is, but we obviously share our income. But no, I am the spouse of an employee of Hilliard Schools, and my 2 kids and used to be 3 kids go there. That being said, this conversation really doesn't come from either one of those. I'm just curious, and I wanted to give you all a platform, whatever platform this might be, the 1 or 2 people that watch it or listen to it. But I wanted to give you all a platform to answer the questions that I think a lot of people have. But I also wanted to give you a space to say that's a question that maybe you could not answer, or at this time, because it is fluid. We know that it's changing, and maybe there's something that you all are doing that you just can't answer that question right now. And so if you just say pass, fine. And I think the audience watching will understand if you just say pass. So,
well, and I appreciate that. And I will say, one of the things about me and the superintendent with Dr. Marshausen, if anybody spent any amount of time with him, he jokes all the time that he talks so much he can't lie or spin things, because he just talks a lot. And that's one of the things that's kept me in this job, to be honest. There are different organizations, whether it's public or private, whatever it is, that they hire spin doctors, and I couldn't do that, especially knowing that the people in this community are my neighbors, they're my friends, they're they're not just my colleagues, and I'm a taxpayer, you're a taxpayer. I'm not gonna lie. The only times we can't say things is if it's a privacy violation or a legal obligation, and I will be straight up with people and say that. I know the news media sometimes gets frustrated with us when we can't, if there's a COVID case right now, people get frustrated that we can't confirm it or give a name or tell a grade. And, those are things that are bound by federal laws. And I'm not going to jail for anybody. I'm not, right. I joke about that, so those are really the only times, and if something's in the works or in development, we'll tell them, we'll say, that it is changing, or, give us a few minutes, give us a few days, and let us figure it out, and we'll move on.
Well, and I completely understand it, because I too work at a facility in Hilliard, and I think of that as well for our customers. I'm going to run into you at Kroger. I'm going to run into you at Lowe's or Home Depot or Walmart or wherever it might be, or the park, and I want to be able to look you in the eye, and that's, I think, for those of us that have lived in Hilliard for a while and work in Hilliard, when we see people we know in Hilliard, we don't want to have to run the other way, or look the other way and say,
Absolutely.
Oh, here we go. And so I think that transparency is fantastic. The other thing I would say too, just as we lead up to some questions I have for you, is going back to last year when this all started, or last year, gosh, it feels like it doesn't.
Absolutely.
Let's go back to March, I guess it would be, when this all started. I have to say that one of the things I'm most thankful for is that Hilliard is so far out ahead and leading from ahead that they were ready. There were schools that weren't. And so, every school's different. There's a lot of factors there, but I want to say that I was thankful that my kids were in a school district that was ready and prepared for a quick move. And so I think that takes us into maybe some of the questions for you. So what was it like then in March, and then throughout the summer, and then even now? So I think there's almost 3 phases. There was okay, we got to circle the wagons and get this done because we're shutting everything down. I mean, we have a small business, so I know what it was like for us. I can't imagine what it was like for a school district. But what was it like March, then this summer trying to plan what could it look like going back, and even now, what are you guys going through now, really on a weekly or almost daily basis, depending on what Governor DeWine decides with what color the county's going to be.
Sure. Well, and and to start it, I would say this was on our radar probably starting in maybe January, if I can remember back that far, because we had students and faculty that were going to Taiwan for spring break. So when this first started happening overseas, and we're like, we got to cancel the trip, or we don't have to cancel the trip. And I'll be totally honest, I was one of the ones that said, oh, come on, this is this, I didn't think it was going to be as big as it was, and as serious as it was. So thankfully we have a whole team that works together, and our assistant superintendent Vicki Clark was on the phone constantly with just working on those spring break trips, and do we cancel spring break. Then it starts getting into February and even into the beginning of March, when clearly we're seeing more and more. And the hard part is there's so much conflicting information, and as parents and community members in our district, people hear and believe and accept different things.
Right.
Our whole country is divided that way. And, it's I don't expect people to change their opinions because of what I'm saying. There are some things that are fact, but then you can find somebody else to say that's not a fact. So it's a really crazy time we're living in. But, when it came to March 13th was our last day in school, which I will never forget because it was a Friday the 13th, and it added to the surrealism of all of this. Really, I don't think Dr. Marshausen said a few times, like he did think that might be the end of it for the school year. And again, I think I probably, and he had a daughter, that was a senior. I had a son that was a senior. We were worried about that. I don't think I believed that was going to be it for the end of the school year, let alone here we are today.
Right.
I don't know if that was I'm not usually a naive person either. That's what's so funny.
Yeah.
But it was tough. And, we are thankful that and very lucky as parents and community members that we did have a one-to-one program, that all of our kids had iPads already. When we were going to shut down, I think we gave our elementary schools, because the elementary kids K through fourth grade did not take their iPads home. And I think they had 1 to 2 days for those teachers to give the iPads to their kids, teach them what Canvas really is and how to log on and how to find, the elementary kids use different programs, ST Math and all these different things. And they had like a day or two to teach them that, because we knew moms and dads are going through so much with their jobs being shifted so much that, whatever it was. And you say, building the bike as we rode it, no kidding. I mean, and everybody in hindsight admits that, the spring was not what we would hope that it is now. It was rough. Our teachers did everything they could. I mean, talk about respect for teachers. And that was the one thing in our community that was absolutely amazing to me. The love and support of our teachers finally is at a place where it needs to be. Because I think, up until then, it's not that parents didn't understand it. And I always said that about myself when my job is to tell the story of our district. And anytime I talk to teachers or principals and I say, tell me what's happening, what's in the classroom, because me as a mom and a non-educator, and I have 2 boys. So when my boys would get home from school, what'd you do for lunch and recess? That's about all normal parents get. Mm-hmm. So if we can explain, why are they using Legos in math, or why are they, doing this or that? And I think parents quickly got an understanding of what happens during the school day, and it was bumpy and it was ugly, and, but parents had, and I think they still do have such a unique appreciation finally for our teachers and what they do and what they go through. And, at the time, our teachers were going through the same thing, and people were scared. Like, people didn't know, is this going to kill children? Is this going to kill my grandmother? Is this going to kill my am I immunocompromised? So there was so much at that point. So I think it's fair to say there was a little of, let's all just get through this. And, I think it was a week or 2 in to us being home that we were like, wow, this is it. We're done for the year.
Yeah.
And I can remember being in a meeting and somebody, it was probably April, so a month and a half before graduations, and somebody brought up graduations. And it was at that moment, the mom in me for the first time came out.
Right.
I had to leave the meeting. I'm not a crier, first of all, let me tell you, like in public, I'm not a crier. So I like looked around the room and there were tears in my eyes. I'm like, I got to get out of this room right now. And it hit me. So, you know, when community members or people hit back at us sometimes, like that was the hardest, when they said we're not working hard enough
Right.
to find a way to do different things. That's what hurt. That's what hit the district. And I'm not making excuses. I mean, you know, we were all, everybody is and was at wit's end. You know, everybody's done with this. Like you talk to anybody and everyone's just done with this. And at that time, when it was at the peak of scariness and not knowing, and, you know, what are we going to do, and missing graduations and all those things, you know, it was crazy. You know, I will say again, on a personal side, that my son at one point joked, you know, because people were so great to the seniors. You know, the class of 2020 got more than I think any other normal class, if you want to call it that, got. He at one point said, wow, I'm kind of tired of being celebrated.
Good for you.
So, but and that's not all kids. I get it. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, there were some kids, and he also didn't play a sport at the time. So I get those kids that lost their seasons or lost their orchestra or lost their spring plays, or, you know, there were things. And one of my things I kept trying to keep in mind is, you know, when a kid says they're devastated or a parent says they're devastated, that's a huge word with a huge meaning, but it was a real feeling.
Sure.
And to say that kids, I mean, didn't your son lose a baseball? I mean, like there was baseball. So things were devastating for our kids. Now, in the grand scheme of life, hopefully parents could teach them and schools can teach them that it's not devastating, but in the moment, in the feeling, there were a lot of people, whether people lost their jobs or the schooling or the plays or the musicals or whatever sport you want to call it, it felt overwhelming and devastating. So that was something that was very critical as a school district. We wanted to keep in mind, you know, how can we keep our counselors in front of students, and hook them up with mental health services if and when they need it.
I want to come back to that, because I think that's where we are today. But I think, you know, being in the position I'm in, I think you just said it, the perspective changes. Perspective for parents change when I'm not just dropping off. I actually have to do the work that the teachers do every day. I think that perspective changes. I think the heat or venom or frustration that you all get, that perspective would also probably change if people had to sit in the seat that you have to sit in and make the decisions you have to make when you have to make them. I see that in our business. You know, it's people come in and make different things. And a lot of times I see this in small business. It's no different for the school. We're all trying to abide by the guidelines of our governor. And I won't even go down that path. I'll just leave it at that. Whether we like them or not, it doesn't matter. That's what we're told we have to do. So it's just like the mask and all the other stuff that's going on. If that's what they say I have to do to keep my business open and run my business or run my school, then that's what I have to do. And I think people have to give grace. I mean, like you said, my son lost his freshman baseball year in college. My daughter lost her recruitable junior year in track. And she spent the whole winter getting ready for what was going to be a huge thing. That's not your fault. That's not, like you said, it is devastating, but it's not your fault. And that's where I stopped the line. You got to draw the line somewhere. And it's not Hilliard Schools' fault. It's where we're at. And it's just heartbreaking, but it is what it is. And so to transition into that, and that's one question I want to have, if sometime we could ever have Dr. Marshausen, maybe you could ask him on my behalf or whatever. I think my question is, and I just found this out. So there's Generation X, Generation Z. The next one is Generation Alpha, from what I understand, because they're going to switch to Greek now. Generation Alpha, that's my question, is what are we, and I don't mean Hilliard Schools, I mean we as the society, as the world right now, what are we doing to Generation Alpha? Because we always complain now that everybody gets an award, everybody gets a ribbon, right? Now nobody gets one. And so I'm curious what experts, like a Dr. Marshausen, who's an expert that I respect so much, I wonder what he would think, or even, you know, you've been close enough to him, you probably have some idea. I think it goes to the mental health. It goes to the loss that the kids, even today when we're hybrid, and again, that's not your fault. you know, and
No, I get it.
it is. What do you think Generation Alpha, how are they, we know they're not dealing well with it because they've been used to getting everything. I mean, it's on their phone, right? It's they don't have to wait for anything, not even a movie anymore. It's they can go to Netflix. So a really long answer question, but what do you think of Generation Alpha? And you said it, mental health, all those things. How as a district do you guys look at that? Because I know that that's something that you have to look at as well.
So I think there's two sides to it. You know, one is what are they getting from parents at home and what are they getting from their school district? And I mean, we all know this having kids. If we react to something as, oh my God, the sky is falling, this is the end of the world, that's how our kids are going to
Yeah.
respond,
Yeah.
no matter what they're getting anywhere else. What I hope our kids are getting and what, you know, we wanted something we had started working on, you know, as a district was sense of belonging. And that's been a very difficult thing through all of this is still trying to get kids to connect. So, you know, there have been times when the district has said, it doesn't matter about the curriculum lesson today. How are you connecting with your kids and how are your kids okay? How do they, what is their resilience and their grit and their determination? Like what can we instill in them upon that? Clearly the academics and the curriculum is very important. So I don't mean to gloss over that at any respect, but at any given time, I mean, we have, you know, it's not only COVID right now, we've got the entire cultural movement around Black Lives Matters.
Right.
And that is something that is in our classrooms right now. And our teachers are working with their students on how to process those kind of society and cultural changes that are happening. And you know, what it needs to be is a team effort between parents at home and our teachers and our administrators, teaching these kids that, God, we got this. You know, this can suck from time to time. Sorry, I hope I can say that. But we're all strong enough together to move forward and move to the next chapter. You know, like I joked with my son with graduation. He didn't know what graduation was supposed to look like. Sure, he saw his friends walk across a stage or whatever, but internally, he doesn't know what that felt like or what that meant. So for us to just say, hey, here it is. This is what you get this year. You know, it helps them to be okay. And again, you know, anxiety and depression is very big in our society and with our kids and parents. So I'm not glossing over it. You know, it's just a matter of we have to keep pushing forward and, you know, teach these kids that this is going to pass. Like everything is going to pass. And how you come out on the other side and how you find, you know, use your phone or use your iPad to get there. If it means, you know, I'll give an example with myself. Sometimes when I come home from work, I need to shut my brain off and I will watch the stupidest TV show I can find just to not have to think. And, you know, again, unscripted. I'm a General Hospital soap opera fan. I've watched it since I was 5-year-old with my sister. Like that to me is a comfort food. It's a comfort level. Yeah. And, you know, we need to teach our kids how to self-care and how to find something that, whether it's with their friends on a Zoom or going for a bike ride or, you know, going out to a baseball field and trying to be careful and throw the ball around or whatever it is. That's what we need to teach our kids is to get through this and know that everybody in the world literally is going through the same thing. This is not unique to Hilliard. Right. This is everybody in the world. So it's not going to be special when they go on to their next level as far as unique special. Everybody's going to have their story. This is their 9/11. This is their space shuttle blowing up. This is their World War II. You know, this is their thing. And I hope to all things in the world, this is their only thing, you know, because we certainly haven't had a lot of those, at least in my life, that were life-defining moments. We've had a handful, but this is by far, you know, going to be their biggest one, I hope.
Right. That's so true. And I'm not paid by the district. I'm not here to do
I know. Don't worry. No, I get it.
And I think as you were talking, I was thinking, I'm thankful again for the district. Again, I'm not being paid to say, so I have no skin in the game, you know, besides my 2 girls that go there. But the district has invested time and effort into, long before all this even started, the E+R+O, you know, the things that you all invested above the line and all the different things that you have invested in from a culture standpoint. Those, I believe, are what will help in these current times. And that it goes to what you said. We've taught those kids that language, the grit. So many of those elementary schools have a word for the year, or they had, right? I mean, so I've seen that in Hilliard Schools. I can personally testify, not even the schools my kids go to, but just knowing, working with some of the schools, I know that they all had those kind of language and those kind of terms. And so some of that was almost like a baseline before any of this even came. And maybe it was, we didn't even know, but thankfully we did, so that those kids do have some things, there's a rock or an anchor that they can hold on to for now. And as you said, we as parents have to keep, and then, obviously being back with their teachers, who some of those teachers or coaches or whatever it might be, those are influences and voices in their life beyond their parents. Because we know I could tell my kids something, but as soon as a teacher said it, or a coach, they're like, oh yeah, okay, I'll do that. I just said that a million times, but no, so I'm very thankful for that as well. And I think we're actually running out of time already.
God, sorry, I talked too much.
No, I love it.
Aaron, if I can say though, I don't want people to think, again, I said I wasn't a spin doctor, and I will just say, it's not perfect, and I'm not saying things are perfect, and sure, we mess up, we make mistakes, and we are trying to learn and get better. Technology glitches, we've had issues with technology and stuff like that. So we get the frustration. I don't want anybody to think that we're sitting over there at central office saying, it's all roses and sunshine. Like it's a work in progress, but the pledge is we promise we're going to keep working to make it better.
And I think it's fluid, and that's what people have to remember. 2 words, fluid and grace.
Yeah.
This is fluid for all of us right now, and they know. I mean, we're speaking generalities, but everybody goes to their job. They know their job's fluid right now. It changes by the minute. Some people are still working at home. Some people are back at the office. Half of the office is back. Who knows? But it is fluid, and I think we just have to continue to give each other grace, even as frustrating as it is. None of us want to be here anymore. But you said it earlier too. It was, I thought, very good point. Our kids are watching, and it goes back to their mental health. How we react will feed. We don't have to say a word. It's caught, not taught. And so they're going to catch how we respond to, oh man, I got to still work from home, or, oh, they're calling me into the office. Or, I don't know. It's different for everybody, but our kids are watching and they're listening, and that will help their mental health, as if we see mom and dad, and now I'm preaching, but if we see mom and dad react in a way that's positive, and and I'm not, you just said it. I mess up. I get mad. I get frustrated. I have a million thoughts on where we're at, but none of it, the important thing is we have to keep talking in the conversation with our kids for sure. So what resources are available as far as, and I know you guys will communicate like crazy, but just while we're on here, what resources are available? Like if somebody's falling behind e-learning, or they're struggling to keep up, or any of those kind of things, what resources do you all have available?
Yeah. So the first thing is always reach out to your teacher. You hear my kid, it took him 4 hours to do an assignment. No assignment, I don't care what class you're in, the highest AP class, it should not take a kid 4 hours to do one assignment. So that's feedback that if this was happening in a classroom, the teachers would see that. They would understand what's going on. When kids are at home, there might be a little disconnect that they might not see, or your kid might be slacking off. But either way, talk to the teacher, reach out to the teachers. They're going to get back to you right away, and they're going to let you know, okay, we'll adjust this, or we'll work on this, because we know there's other classes. If it gets to a mental health issue, our counselors are amazing. Our counselors are working with kids. Now that we're in hybrid, they'll see them face to face. And if it's on their hybrid day off, call anyway, email anyway. We'll get them in touch with them. We still have different counseling organizations we work with a lot, that we don't take mental health issues lightly. We're going to give it full court, and we're going to do whatever we can to work with you and your child to make sure everybody is as safe as possible. And again, that's not just COVID safe, that's mental health safe, and, and doing what they need to do.
Awesome. Well, you guys are the best, and I mean that genuinely, inside and outside the school district. Anytime I've worked with either you or Dr. Marshausen, I've just been so impressed all the time, even before COVID and everything else. And I was most impressed during, because I know this is a hard road, and I do not want your job. I feel like the superintendent job has to be one of the most difficult, and it takes leadership. And I'll say that too. I think, and we can get into that's a whole nother call probably about leadership, but I will say at the local school district level, I've seen tremendous leadership. And if maybe other areas of our country were showing that kind of leadership right now, we wouldn't have some of the vacuums. We would still have mistakes, as you said, but we would have leadership, and we need that. And so I'm thankful for that.
Well, thank you. And I'll make sure to share that, when he goes to bed at night, he's putting his head on his pillow with the lives of close to 17,000 students and over 2,000 staff members, so his decisions are not made lightly. It's not a political issue with him. It is the health and safety of those kiddos from, pre-K to 12th grade, and then every single staff employee. So thank you.
My stomach just turned when you said that number. So that's something we all really need to remember. That's unbelievable. I don't think when we see it in our little lens, we have our frustrations, but we don't think of it as I'm responsible for 1,700. I mean, I have 5 people in my house total, including myself, that, that's a burden. 17,000 is a whole nother level. So, all right, last question before we get off. So social media had a little bit of a brush fire. And again, if safe word's still in place. Social media had a little bit of a brush fire. I guess it was last week, or I don't know. I lose track. But across different things. And DeWine, as I understand it, pushed through an order, which he does on Saturday nights at 10:30 sometimes. And those are the ones that seem to get us in the most trouble. But there was an order that said something along the lines of, and again, I take most of this with a grain of salt, but it was a little weird, and I think it was more for colleges, but I'll let you speak to it. That basically said, if my kid had COVID, you guys would keep him overnight. Now, and so of course that got strung out on Facebook, and as you said, you can find answers, which for whatever argument you have, you can find the answers. Somebody will support your thought. All that to say, those are all my personal thoughts, but any truth to the rumor that you would keep a kid overnight or have COVID camp in the Davidson gym?
Yeah, so we don't want your kids overnight. There are no plans to keep kids overnight, and we laugh, but I know for some people this was serious. I don't know why it was serious. We would have to be in such a different state in this community or in this country for anything, but so it makes me laugh. Part of that means we're going to start vaccinating kids and giving them COVID shot or COVID testing. Like we're going to take them. We would never. Okay. I should always preface by saying I never say never, because I don't know what's going to happen down the road. I can say with 100% confidence, there's no plans in place for an overnight camp. There are no plans to start testing kids without parents or test them at all. We don't even have the money to test. You know what I mean? So that's another thing, but we barely, we may check for lice with kids, but that's about it. We don't do anything without parental consent and input and parents with us. This is a community. This is a partnership. I'm sorry people got worked up. There were some blogs out there that on both sides of the aisle that push agendas, and this time it happened to be the one aisle that pushed it a little too far, I think, and scared some parents into thinking that this was an option. And it's not like, and then I keep joking. I'm like, but you can keep my 16-year-old, like, hey, David, keep him for a week. Like, but no, it's.
I had for the dinner on Friday night. I thought
yeah, exactly. We're having a hard time with social distancing, Anyway, we're not going to keep the kids. We have no beds. I can say unequivocally, there are no plans at all for anything like that. So thank you for asking about that. That's a good one because.
Yeah. And a lot of times, a lot of it, you just kind of let it roll. But well, thank you so much. And thank Dr. Marshausen. I know that if he could be here, he would. And again, I knew when I asked that, but I figured I'd make the ask. But again, I appreciate his leadership, your leadership. I appreciate your patience and grace right now that you're having with, as we just said, social media can be really nasty and people can be really, really nasty. And I understand it's not directed at you. And I think you all do a great job of understanding it's not directed at you. It's the frustration that we're all feeling. But thank you for being in a position where you take that and you take it well. Thank you for being ahead of this before it even came. You guys, as you said, you were ahead of it. We were prepared. I'm thankful that my kids are in the district that they're in, and I'm thankful for all that you all do. So, and I'm thankful for your time. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. It's fun.
Really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you real soon. Thank you.